baffling type of game. You got Grady Dick leading the scoring with 15 at the half. Brandon Ingram gets 5 or 6 pull-up threes in a row in the third quarter. The Raptors are down by 20 for felt like most of this game. Really, really slow start. They had like 8 points halfway through the first quarter. Just like never really took off. Pelicans had a 16-3 run in the first quarter. Scotty looked really tired off the start. Raptors just lack of off-ball movement, just kind of standing around on offense, half-heartedly taking drives, not a ton of passing, not a ton of movement. Grady hitting a couple threes was kind of the first bright spot, and the Pelicans were the opposite, just tons of ball movement, tons of just a barrage of threes. But the weirdest thing for me in this game, because like the Chris Boucher thing has been a talking point. Like he's been completely out of the rotation, and we kind of have believed that it's because a trade is coming. They want to keep him healthy. He just came in and played 12 minutes. Like he went 4 for 5 from the field. I know it was garbage time, but the point I'm making is, I mean, 6 rebounds as well. He hit a three pretty quickly too off the bat. I thought the whole point of him not playing is to protect him from getting injured for a trade. So why is he coming in and playing 12 minutes in a game where you're down by 40? Yeah, this strange coaching, I guess, in general. Wara's back in the rotation, I guess. Didn't look particularly good. I know if you're like a young player trying to find your way in the league and you play really well like he did and then get benched, just it's kind of weird messaging from him. Obviously he has to be better, but he got a 24-minute run tonight. Grady got a 30-minute run tonight, and Grady had a good game, 4 for 8 from 3, 22 points, 15 in the first half. It's kind of the bit of a lone bright spot. Scotty played a pretty good game. Definitely not. Only 5 rebounds for him. Only played 25 minutes. I mean, this is a back-to-back double overtime. Yada yada. Got to the hotel at 6 a.m. Slept for 2 minutes. Did a 26-hour workout and then came to the game. Didn't eat anything. Didn't drink any water. All that stuff. It's one of those games. And the Raptors just like never really had it tonight. McDaniels, I mean, 4 turnovers for him in 12 minutes. This is the second appearance for him where he's gotten back-to-back turnovers. Again, it's like you don't really see that too often in the NBA, where a guy will get a turnover, other team goes back down, he gets another turnover, and in back-to-back games, he is kind of, I don't know. I've said it a million times, but it's almost awkward, I bet, for the 905 to like post clips on social media of like Justice Winslow or Javon Freeman Liberty. They're doing all this shit in the G League, and it's like, oh, here's McDaniels. Just gonna go there and get back-to-back turnovers. Bruce Brown just completely listless. I think he wants. I don't think he. He showed some emotion on the call that he got wrong, but he had like a precious-y type mid-range shot. I think in the second quarter, just kind of drifted middle and took this wild like hook shot where he was off on 1 foot and kind of like a baseball throw, very preciously like. That was in the second quarter. I thought Schroeder and Wara were dribbling way too much around the perimeter, and lots of just sloppy passes from the Raptors, just like lazy. I thought Jakob was like better in this game than he has been in most games, but he's still rushing a lot of his passes. They're like predictable and rushed, which is a really bad combination. Kind of a cool moment for Grady, 4:18 in the second quarter. Um, he's obviously known as a 3-point shooter, but he had a play where he like nudged. It was Siakam ish, where he nudged Larry Nance Jr., who's like a big guy. Um, Larry Nance Jr., by the way, author of the greatest NBA tweet of all time about Jeffrey Dahmer, going to the same high school as him. Um, but speaking of Dahmer, I'm in America right now. I'm in Florida. Some cruise yard, security camera somewhere in Florida. Um, but he nudged him and like moved him a little bit and got the shot off over him, like kind of baseline mid range. And yeah, that obviously takes strength to get that separation off of a guy of that size. So I guess the cops are here for the post game show. Oh, security. Where the fuck is that? Yeah, it's cool that he's able to create a shot that way over, a guy who's taller and stronger than him. So thought that was almost my favorite play of the game, probably. Got a little star next to it. Could be a future video. Then on the very next play, Grady just completely abandons Herb Jones, who just walks in for an offensive rebound, puts the bucket in. Scotty's got his arms out of Grady, like, what the fuck are you doing? Me too. I'm kind of doing the same thing as Scotty. So it's a development. It's a development year. Yeah, the Raptors offense just like felt pointless, felt listless. There was a little bit of juice in the third quarter, with like second quarter, sorry, with quickly Grady, Scotty, Pirtle, and Gary. They went on a 9-0 run, but that was pretty much it. Again, another third quarter where they just get completely slaughtered. This is happening over and over and over again, where the game's just completely lost in the third quarter or blown out in the third quarter. Like I don't have a ton of notes for this game, but like I got a bit from first half. Second half, I have like 6 lines of notes from the second half. Just pretty brutal. Brandon Ingram. I wrote 5, but I think it might have been 6 pull-up threes in a row. No timeouts during that period of time either. Just like, oh yeah, just keep this going. Let the kid ride this out. Some coaches, they call a timeout. Like Spoelstra will call a timeout when he's up by like 32 and the other team gets like 4-0 run, and it's just like, all right, we got to squash this. Darko's just like, whatever. We'll call a timeout for like offense, defense, and if Dennis wants to challenge something, I'll call a timeout for that. But Brandon Ingram, dropping like 85 points in the quarter. Just keep that rolling. Just let that go. Jordan Ware, you want to cover him? Great. Cover Brandon Ingram on the perimeter. That's what you should be doing. You should be coming off of like a hot game, couple games, I guess, one downish game, but you should go from not playing at all to guarding Brandon Ingram in the midst of a heat check. So that makes a lot of sense. And then the fourth quarter, Grady, Boucher, Wara, McDaniels, Temple. And so Boucher plays the entire fourth quarter. What what is going on? The whole time, the only thing that's made sense for him to be sitting all these games is that they're protecting him from getting injured because they want to trade him. And now he comes out down 40 and plays the entire fourth quarter. It's weird. So maybe that's not the story. I mean, Raptors are pretty famous for not leaking stuff. I mean, Otto didn't play. So maybe Darko just doesn't like Boucher's game, value Boucher's game, because his minutes were dwindling and then they completely disappeared, and now he's coming into the game to just play in garbage time. I don't know. It's really strange. I don't really see the method to a lot of the madness, but they're experts or whatever in the field. But something just something seems really weird to me about
He,
the whole Boucher thing. It's just it's like not adding up. Um, and throw a lot of people in the chat are talking about McDonald's, Jalen McDaniels. Yeah, I mean, he's had one good game, the Boston game, where he went 2 or 3 from 7 from three, had some good defensive plays against Jalen Brown, had a few assists, but yeah, he is like he drives kind of like OG drives. It's just like this really slow gallop, and then he comes up short on so many of his little like fading away. Like he loves those kind of like fading away. Like he almost like it's like he tries to be Shea kind of with that like slow motion stuff, but he just doesn't have the touch, finishing ability, grace, IQ, or anything that Shea has, and so it just looks really. It just looks kind of silly a lot of times when he drives, and he'll like fall over a lot and be off balance, and he kind of tries to make it look like I thought he was a big yoga guy when I first started watching him, but I don't know who you could. I talked about this last night, but it's like who could you even trick to unload him? Like you'd have to probably be somewhere he was before, like Philly or Charlotte. You could maybe trick them into like something with like a second rounder or something. Maybe there's maybe they miss him or something or they remember him, but yeah, he has been just putrid, like just horrible. He's been there's really no other way of putting it. He's just been horrible. But I mean the game was lost long before he had anything to do with it. Um, but I think when you're in a development rebuilding stage, and the coach is just kind of um being random, it seems like it doesn't seem like there's a method to this. And it's one thing if you're like winning games or being random and trying different things out and seeing what works and what doesn't work. That's not what I mean. What I mean is random in the sense of like Thad Young doesn't play for the first like 4 months of the season and then he's in every single game. Boucher just is like playing pretty regularly and then he just comes out. Grady had a couple really good games and he just comes out. Wara had a couple good games. He comes out. Like it's just like you just randomly get this coach just randomly will kind of take you off the face of the earth and then kind of bring you back and that's what I mean with it does I don't know just outwardly and I'm not the only one who has said this but I don't really know what the plan is or not what the plan is this development but what are the standards here like what are they valuing what are they giving playing time to because throughout the year there's been just random games where McDaniels will check in with 4 minutes left in the first quarter. It's like, where did this come from? What warranted this? What advantage is he creating? What is the point of him over other players on the team? And he's just like one example. There's just kind of it's been a bit weird. It's almost like I don't know where he's like I don't know where Darko stands on each of these players. Um, I mean, if they're not protecting Chris from being traded, obviously he can't be a huge Boucher fan to just completely take him out of the rotation in a time where you're needing centers. And I guess he's not like quote unquote 100% pure center, but is that young? I mean, yeah, it's weird. Um, yeah. What do you guys think? What do you guys think in the chat? Um, is Dario gonna get fired? It's Dario Saric, Mafia Renee. Is Darko gonna get fired? Um, okay. Normally, I think these questions are kind of dumb, but let me chew on this for a second. I mean, the NBA, you got like Eric Spoelstra, Greg Popovich. They've been the coaches for like 50 years. And then everybody else is kind of in like a 5-year 5 to 10 year. Like Mike Malone has been around for a while. Tibbs has been in New York for a little bit now. But for the most part, NBA coaches last like 2-3 years. Seems like kind of is like the new average. It's definitely getting less and less. The coach is obviously the easiest thing to just be like, all right, see you, buddy, and then just literally go on LinkedIn and get somebody else. So it kind of makes sense that the coach situation is really fluid. Um, I definitely don't think he has wowed anybody. I don't think even the most like the Matt Dowlins of the world. I don't think anybody is looking at this and just being like, wow, he's really put something great together here. Like he had the rants, which bought him some time, I think. But yeah, I don't think anybody is really saying like he hasn't like what has he really like figured out. Um, like there's nothing that he's. I mean, the assists are way up. That's great. I'll give him credit for that. You do have to give him credit for that. The assists are up. There is more ball movement. There's more. I mean, the personnel has changed as well, but that was even true with the old personnel. Um, but I think that this job in particular, I don't know what it's like with other leagues, but with the NBA, you got like a 2 year window. I mean, look at the Bucks with Griffin. Sometimes you have a 6 month window. I mean, that's a different situation. They need to win now, and then they got Doc there. I think what is he 1-3 with the new team. Um, but yeah, you don't have long in the NBA. So if for all the people who are saying like hashtag fire Darko or whatever, it might not be that long, just because of how this league works, like how quickly stuff moves. Like it. I mean, even with Doc Rivers or even with Adrian Griffin, like they were already looking at stuff in like November, I think, like a month after they bring the guy in, they're already like bringing in consultants and having backroom meetings about like the future. And I mean, I think this team has underperformed for the talent that they've had. Even they've been relatively healthy. I mean, they lost to the Pistons. I think that probably like, again, no, I have no intel on this, but I think that gets at least the conversation either started or progressing of like what's happening here, like what are we doing here. And yeah, it seems like he was so inflexible with changing the starting lineup. They did that for 30 games before it was like, hey, this is our like 14th most efficient lineup. Maybe we shouldn't start every game with it. And we're getting slaughtered in like the first half of every first quarter. But they did that for like 30 games, and that was really set. But then there's these other things like players playing well and then just getting taken out of the rotation completely the next game that are, I don't know. It's a weird combination of like he's really set in certain things and other things it's like, okay, you're just Chris Boucher, you're just not playing anymore. Jordan Nwora, you're just not playing anymore. Grady Dick, you're just not playing anymore. Not even like your minutes are getting cut or your role is changing. You're just not playing. And then I know it's not his style to talk to the media about stuff other than, the infamous rant. So like he's not gonna call anybody out or anything, which whatever, it's fine. But I think as fans or as people trying to figure out like what's happening, it does make it kind of muddy and blurry, and kind of just like hard to parse or hard to predict. It's very unpredictable. Just like, oh, Jordan Nwora, like he's just not playing, or like Chris Boucher, he's just not playing, or it doesn't really seem to be a method. Otto Porter thing what's happening with that? I mean, I guess that one's a little more obvious, like holding him off for a trade. But I mean, who knows? Maybe that's not the case, because I thought that was the whole Boucher situation. There's no other way that you can rationalize, like contending teams want to trade for Chris Boucher. There's no way that you can rationalize to me that he's not the Raptors', I don't know, 7th best player. He just completely falls out of the rotation. Just not playing him at all Um, yeah, I don't know. It's if I was a player, I would just be kind of. I mean, the top players like the Scotties, the Quickleys, the RJ Barrett when he's healthy, and like those guys, like they're gonna get their minutes, and I don't think there's like that much of a question with those when you're at. But I think that the next level down, which is so important in a development year, and I mean it's a first time head coach. This is the risk of hiring a first time head coach is they've never done this before. So I think that there is something lost with that next tier of players. The Gradys, the Waras, the Bouchers, like that part of the rotation, the Thad Youngs, the Otto Porters, like that part of it has just been really kind of all over the place and kind of a mess. And not really in like an experimental way, but just in more of a black and white on or off switch. Like the Thad Young thing, like just not even gonna entertain him as an idea or a thought for the first like 4 months. And then all of a sudden, props to him for being crazy conditioning, but just all of a sudden we're going to pencil him in for like 24 minutes a game, and he's just an integral part of the thing. And it's like you weren't even willing to try that earlier. I don't know. That's my long way of saying he's not getting fired tomorrow. He's probably not even getting fired this year, but you don't have a lot of time. You do not have a lot of time to figure this out. There's not a lot of chemistry with Scotty and Quickly. Talked about that on the Raptors show today. I did relapse a little bit on the sports now for a little bit, but it's okay. Called my sponsor. Back on the Pelicans broadcast tonight, they refused to say, one of the guys, Antonio Daniels, former Vancouver Grizzly Antonio Daniels, refused to say Dick, like Grady Dick, like he just wouldn't say it. And then every time the other announcer, it was another Bally Sports cardboard cutout that I've talked about with the two guys with no chemistry. But yeah, the one guy was saying that Grady Dick for 3, Grady Dick, whatever. And Antonio Downs was like, "You're crazy. I can't even do this with you, man. Like, this is crazy. You're crazy. You're wild for saying Dick, or you're wild for saying that. Like, I'm not." So he was calling him Grady Richard. It's Pelicans broadcast. I might have to relapse back into Sportsnet and TSN because it's been a nice detox and cleanse, but I might have to go back to that. But what was I saying? I was like in the middle of the point. Darko, yeah. You don't have much time. Like the Quickly Scotty two man game thing. I was talking about that on the Raptors show, and yeah, like they don't. It's kind of the Giannis Dame thing. It's like you guys aren't running like really any pick and rolls. Like I made the one video of Quickly and Scotty having good chemistry, which I thought they kind of did for the first few games, but I feel like that has not been as evident. And they don't. What I was kind of expecting from them when the trade first happened was just a lot more of them kind of playing off of each other. Not it doesn't even have to be pick and roll or anything like anything like beyond that, like any kind of crazy setup or crazy scheme. It's just more like, okay, what are you guys really good at? And how can you create chemistry off that? Like how can you create situations where defenses have to hedge or or you can create movement or creating like, off balance structures and stuff like, if Scotty's going to be hitting threes and Quickly's hitting pull-up threes, Quickly's driving a lot, Scotty's driving a lot, I've just been kind of surprised at how little exploration between the two of them there's been with either Quickly at the perimeter and Scotty driving or vice versa, because they can both hit threes and they can both get into the paint, but they haven't established that two-man chemistry where those threats combine and create like you look at what the Raptors had to do against Shea, where it's like, okay, we have to change the whole game plan to collapse the paint. Same thing with Zion tonight, collapse everything. There's nothing that the Raptors have that the defense has to be like overly adjusting for, because none of these guys really have amazing chemistry, and that's really, unless you're a crazy ISO player, which none of these guys are for the Raptors. If you don't have that chemistry, it's very difficult to be really threatening, because it's weird. Like the Raptors get all these assists, but it's not like they play that well. It's like a weird dichotomy where it's like they're getting assists, but they're not necessarily combining their strengths and creating something that's like difficult to guard, because they don't have that one guy right now that other teams have to go like, oh my God, what do we do? But yeah, I mean, overall, just this was a pretty bad game. This was pretty embarrassing. I mean, back to back, talking about the schedule is boring. I hate when other people do it, so I won't. Mafia Unite says, quickly looks annoyed at Darko. Can you make a video with that? Can you be more specific? Quickly not hopping around as much as he was the first few games. I have noticed that the hops have decreased. You do miss RJ Barrett. Dejan Nikolic. I think what matters most is having a promising year next year, because that's Scotty's contract year. Is that the rookie extension? I don't think he's already kind of, I don't think it's a big year for that. I don't know. It's already shown the stuff, I think. I mean, his play has regressed a bit recently, but not enough to. Z-Shrug says the vibes are dead. I mean, that's what losing does. Like most of these teams at the bottom, like I watched, all the Detroit. I got addicted to the Detroit losing streak, and like you watch those games, like there's no vibes. And in a way, it almost looks, part of it could be, I'm not saying this is it, but part of it is like, I think there's that kind of, like Alec Burks, for example. There was one game, who the Pistons were, this was like game 25 of their losing streak. God, I missed that era, but that was like game 25 of their losing streak. And Alec Burks had like a turnover and then took a bad three. And then at the end of the game, he was like laughing and jumping around and just being really like jovial. And then Cade was like, it's kind of a famous shot of Cade just like sitting in the chair looking like he was like in the electric chair. Like his life was flashing before his eyes. So I think there is a little bit of that, like, and then everybody was like clowning on Alec Burks and saying like, what are you doing? So I think there is a little bit of that, like, you don't necessarily want to be the guy who's getting blown up by 40 and like jumping up and down. It just like looks a little weird. But I also do agree that in general, the vibes have tapered off a little bit. I think at the start of the year, they were like kind of forced by management, by the powers that be, and then it kind of became organic. But now it's not ideal. It's not really where you'd want it to be. But at the same time, how happy are you going to be? Like, yeah, you're going to get your. I mean, Raptors are definitely closing in on Portland. What were they? They were 2 games back of Portland for the 6th pick, or for the 6th slot. They were 2 games back of Portland tonight, so I think they are. Okay, Portland lost, so they're currently in 6th. So if they're like, Portland's very gettable. They could get the 5th best lottery odds, which I think gives them a 65% chance of keeping their pick, if I'm correct, if they move up one more slot. But then you've got Charlotte. Like, they've got 7 more wins than Charlotte. That, like, Charlotte would really have to go on a push, and the Raptors would really have to, like, go on a historically bad run. I think both of those things happening simultaneously are pretty unlikely. But Portland, I think you could get there with Portland, and then you'd have the 5th best odds. And yeah, me personally, I would rather have better odds than like make the play-in. It's just this, especially with like this team, like there's maybe some different circumstances of like maybe after a trade deadline, you know, or you start off the season like you lose the first like 20 games and then you get really hot, or a player comes back from injury, or you make some trades that kind of change your trajectory. But I think with this team, with where they're at, I think at this point, it's like, it's weird. Like when you, again, I don't really love the whole idea of like deliberately tanking, but when you're at this point, I mean, it is kind of the smart thing to do. So on one hand, that part of it's not the end of the world. Like the fact that they're losing games isn't the end of the world, in terms of the situation that they put themselves in. But the situation that they put themselves in is, even if they manage to take over Portland and become, the fifth worst team in the NBA, there's still a third chance that they don't get their pick and then it rolls over. And I know there's debate on that, but I don't know. I think in every draft there's always, like, drafts are really, draft experts are some of my favorite people in the world. It's just a lot of tea leaves. So, I mean, and even in the worst drafts, there's always random players, and then in good drafts, it's not that black and white. People are, oh, the draft sucks, so you may as well just tap out of it. There's always going to be hidden gems. I will say with the broadcast, but every time Darko talks too quickly, he looks up, says Mafia overnight. I missed the broadcast. I missed the Sportsnet broadcast. How was it? Devin Smith, only one more game till the trade deadline. Is that true? Yeah, I guess that is, because I guess it's in like 3 days or something. Who do you guys think is getting traded? So they got one more. They've got one more game. The Toronto Raptors play. Oh, the Charlotte Hornets. Speaking of Charlotte, that's a big game. If they want to catch Charlotte, they could. How many more games against Charlotte? I don't feel like they've played. They feel like they've only played Charlotte once. So they've got some games against Charlotte and I think they lost against Charlotte too. But they've got some upcoming games against Charlotte that could maybe. They probably don't play the Blazers that much. Okay, 2 more games against Charlotte. So that could be 12. That could give Charlotte 12 wins. Raptors 17. There's a way, but it's probably pretty unlikely. Yeah, it seemed pretty sure that Boucher was getting traded, but now I'm just confused. I don't know. There's been all these reports about it. Antagonist of the program, Blake Murphy, said pretty much assuredly that he would be very surprised if Chris Boucher was on the team after the trade deadline. And then apparently and then bang, all of a sudden you're playing for an entire quarter, going out there for the whole quarter. So had to take Scotty out of that Celtics game or whatever because he didn't want to play the whole quarter. But Chris Boucher, you're playing the whole quarter, buddy. A lot of McDaniels comments. Ryan H says Trent Jr.'s gone. I mean, I'm not saying I agree with it. He's got, last time I checked, 24th highest 3-point percentage in the NBA. Raptors really need shooting, but he's got to be one of the harder players to evaluate, because I don't really mean like him objectively, but I think with where the Raptors are, he's like a really difficult, because he's not killing you in the cap, and he's probably after this year would take less money. So that's not like a factor in any of it. They're not deep in the guard rotation whatsoever. I mean, they're more now since the trade, but still they're not a deep enough team, especially at the guard, to say, okay, we're good on guards. Like, we don't need any more guards. Um, so yeah, I mean, who knows what's happening like behind the scenes, or what kind of contract he would want. I think he's on the books for like, what, 17 million. I think that might go down after this year. Although with the cap staying the same, it might just stay the same. But uh, it's because he's not, like, in theory he's a good, he's a good fit. And part of it is, like, I think the Raptors have been just so uh needing of shooting that maybe it has like boosted his aura a little bit. Um, but he's just one that it's just like, I don't even really know where I sit on that, because he will get, like, there are teams that want him. Like, there's been teams reportedly that want him. Just with his 3-point shooting, like, that alone, a contender will, or even probably some team like the Lakers, I could see them. It seems like they're always linked with him, clutch or whatever. But he's one guy that you could get value from, and if he's not in the long-term future, then yeah, it makes sense to trade him, but then you don't have an abundance of shooting. You don't have a. I think if you're gonna sign him or keep him, I think you just kind of have to accept that this is probably about what he is, and it's not like the Raptors have a crazy deep bench. It's not like they have a lot of guards. So if you can have that conversation with him and be like, Gary, like, you're a fucking bench player. I don't know how that would go. I don't know how. I don't know if you would agree with that, but I mean, yeah. I mean, tonight, 2 points in 15 minutes. Started but only played 15 minutes. Coach didn't like what he saw, and it's the other thing with him is you get one rebound, you get no assists, no steals, no blocks, blah blah blah. It's kind of the same story. But just like the shooting is so, they need that so badly. But it's like, would he be able to accept the role where it's like, all right, you're the seventh guy kind of thing? I don't know. I don't really. Jagged little thrills. Is Bruce Brown likely to get traded? I think out of all the players, that's probably the most likely. Like, I would be really surprised if he's on the team. He's definitely playing like he's going to get traded. And it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for me, like, not only timeline wise, but just like fit wise. It's just, I've been thinking the whole time that he would most likely get moved. He left the game with the store back, aka get me off the damn team, says Ryan H. Who left with the store back? Was that Gary? You said Gary would look nice on the Pelicans. I mean, any team, I think he would look good on any team where you don't have to create anything. Like, he doesn't have to create anything. Like, he's not responsible for, like, basically what he's good at is like transition threes, catch and shoot, and bailout possessions. Like, all right, we got 5 seconds left on the shot clock. Nothing's happening. Can we throw it to you for some weird, like, mid-range fadeaway turnaround jumper? Cool. But that is kind of where it ends. If the Raptors were deeper and had more guards, it would be a much easier decision, just because the development from him just hasn't been there as you'd hope. Although he did up his, like, rim percentage last year, and it has dipped a little bit, but it is still up from like his, like there has been some progression in the percentages, but I think with just like how many just talented, skillful guards there are in the NBA, not necessarily on the Raptors per se, but in general, I feel like he just needs like one or two more things. But to be like where I think he kind of sees it, but I think as like a seventh guy, I don't think that's the worst. I don't think it's like the worst thing in the world. But yeah, that's pretty much it. 38 point blowout. Wasn't even close. And one more game until the trade deadline. Boucher situation makes no sense. Like just really, really perplexing. And that's the last. It's the last of the Mohicans. Last champion. I haven't seen that movie, by the way. Michael Mann movie. Watched Heat for like the third time the other night. We watched that again. Also, Thief looks good with James Caan. That was his first one. Got some Brian De Palma movies also on the queue. Repulsion and Sisters. Gonna watch those. And that's the last. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Raptors 27 assists tonight. It didn't seem like that many. Wara had 5 assists. Low key. Okay. Quickly, only 8 points in 24 minutes. Only took 3 threes tonight in 24 minutes. Is he like shell shocked after last game where Scotty was in the corner and just was like, all right, you go do it. Yeah, this is a... Folks, do yourself a favor and don't look at the box score. Grady Dick not only led them at the half in scoring, but led them in scoring, period, with 22. So, yeah, shouts to Grady. You know, that has been definitely a bright spot in the last few weeks because he was Grady had the 17th highest true shooting on the 905. He had the 143rd highest 3-point percentage on the 905. Like, it looked, and I know he's a young player and everything. You can never get like too extreme on one end. I didn't, but like, you can't get too extreme on either end with a player that young. But yeah, I mean, to go from 17th highest true shooting percentage on a team with like 19 guys on it, to go from that to leading a team in scoring with 22 points, 4 for 8 from 3. I mean, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. He looks a lot more confident. He takes his shots with a lot of like purpose, like not just single Dennis out, but sometimes Dennis will just kind of like pull up and just like, all right, just fucking chuck this up. Grady, it's just like every shot, there's just so much like shot prep. And he does it really quick. It's not like he's not taking out his mechanics belt and doing a bunch of shit, but like he's just like really ready to shoot it. That's what I'm trying to say. He seems to be his niche or niche. Do you say niche or niche? Say niche probably. Seems to be the corner threes. He likes the corner threes, and he really likes the corner sidestep threes as well. But yeah, he's just playing with a lot more confidence. His drives look better too, and I really like the bumping Larry Nance off the spot and then kind of fading away with the mid range. It's pretty sweet. Grady Richard as the Pelicans broadcast. I thought he was joking, and like the first time I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. Like I thought he was just being like, oh, what, you can't say that, you got to say it. But then like throughout the whole game, he was like Grady Richard, Grady. But the other guy was just saying Dick, and the other guy was like, oh man, I can't believe you're saying it. Oh man, this is crazy. Shouts to Bally Sports. Just goes to show you that you can be $80 trillion in debt Have a bunch of sports broadcasters that talk like auctioneers slowed down. Hey everybody, welcome to Bally Sports. You're tuned into Bally Sports. Welcome to Bally Sports. The best of the NBA at Bally Sports. Tune in today at Bally Sports. Da-da-da-da-da-da. You can have that and be in debt like $7 trillion and Amazon will still buy you. It's the world we live in, folks. My name is Jim Fuck, and you're tuned into Bally Sports. Tune into Bally Sports every day. Watch your favorite teams on Bally Sports. My name is Jim Fuck, and you are tuned into Bally Sports. 69420 Bally Sports. It's the Bible Belt for you. What is the Bible Belt officially? Like what states? Big geography buff. Gonna move to Brazil. I figured out. I got my little town in Brazil. I'm gonna run off to. But Bible Belt, because you hear this word Bible. I've been to Utah. Bible Belt, USA. Okay, the Bible Belt is contains Virginia, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and everything in between. Okay, so we got Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee. It's all the Bible Belt, folks. It's God's country. You want to meet God? Come to the fucking Bible Belt. That's where he is. He's right. I'm in the Bible Belt. I'm in Florida. God's here, man. He's in the fuck. This is where he's at. All the places in the world. Of all the places in the world, you got like the Norwegian fjords. You've got like Sicily and Malta and shit. You've got the Maldives. You got like the Gobi Desert. I guess that's not that cool. But you got lots of cool shit. You got that Rainbow River in Colombia. All the European cities that have culture and stuff that people go to and take pictures of. And you're going to go to Oklahoma if you're God. That's God's country. I drove from New York to Florida once. So I drove through Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. Savannah, Georgia's cool. Savannah Hamilton's mom, I believe, is still following me on Twitter. I haven't checked that in a while, so I literally just potentially lied. Should I check that live on the show here? No, that's a little too much. Maybe if we had split screens. The Bible Belt, because we have a Bible Belt in BC. It's like Abbotsford, Chilliwack, Mission, I guess. All the best places. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The Raptors got blown up by fucking 40. You know? What else is there to say? 38, sorry.